All right, today while I was trying to think of what to write about, I thought about what ChatGPT on the weekend. It's to write more scripts based on comments. And this particular comment caught my eye, but I didn't like the what it said. It sounded like it was regurgitated too much. But Quinn and Scott wrote, "New grads just aren't getting hired. You should do more videos on that." So for nearly 4 years, I've gotten entry level people that have started working for me, right? They they are the people that I rely on in order to do the low level, grunt level, entry level jobs. And what they've been telling me, and they just hired one of these recent grads just today, in fact, or a few days ago. They just announced it today. But he's told me that he's applied for numerous jobs. He has multiple degrees and he can't get a job. He had to take a job as a janitor with a STEM degree. And so he's told me about how hard it is, even after you get out of college, to find any job. And you guys know my story. Fresh out of college and straight to working in retail. I had the same job that I had before I went into working in retail. So I went back to school and after the 2008 financial disaster, and I came out and I was doing the exact same thing. I was pushing shopping carts at Kroger's in 2008, and I came back, I got out of school, and I went right back to doing the same thing, except it was across the street, ironically, at the Megalomart. And it's not like I could escape. You can't really escape retail because no matter how many interviews, and I went to dozens and dozens of interviews, I must have applied at over 1,000 jobs. You think that's a lot, but over the course of 2.5 years of applying to jobs on Indeed every single day, I couldn't find anything. And I understand what it's like because, and I've told all my Gen Zs this, they don't want you because nobody wants to train you. You have to be able to take it upon yourself in order to train yourself because large corporations or any business doesn't want you to take their skills, their investment, right? They're financially investing in you with time and money in order to make you the employee that they want. But at that point, you're valuable enough so that you're going to walk right across the street and get a job paying a lot more money than what they wanted to pay you at entry level minimum wage part time. And that's what corporations don't like. That's why they don't train. That's why they don't invest. They don't want you getting comfortable at any job that you apply to. The more uncomfortable you are, the harder you will have to work in this world. Whether it's one job, two jobs, three jobs, 10 jobs, it doesn't matter. They want you working as hard as humanly possible for the least amount of money. And your overall quality of life is this a shack where this place is disgusting. But this is all I can afford. I can say this about my entire life. My life is disgusting. I'm always broke. I'm always depressed about being broke, and nothing's going to change. I've spent my whole life living like this at the bottom of society with the overall quality of life that no one really wants. And that's why a lot of young people they see what working can buy you and they don't really have any interest in working that hard in order to have this. And it sucks because I mean, sometimes there's just no way of getting out of the way of this. I don't have parents. I don't have friends. I don't have anything. And so sometimes you'll, I guess I was just trying to explain this. I was eating with Mello yesterday, and we were talking about this because she really, really likes talking about channel stuff. And we were sitting at the restaurant, and we're just like sitting there, kind of just like, I don't know. We were just kind of talking about nothing. And she said something to the effect of, um, how did she put this? Like, we don't have anyone. Like, we don't have like a group of friends. We don't have family. We don't have like business connections to anything. And Mello's worked in retail her entire adult life. And yesterday, when we were driving, she said to me, it's like, I'm getting really tired of working in retail because she's worked on her knees, stacking things her whole life. And she told me that she wants to try to get some sort of office job. And I said, I think you should do that. I mean, I don't see why not. And we just kind of like talked about it. And then we went quiet because it's unrealistic because she doesn't have any experience. And that's what grads are experiencing right now as they're coming out of school and they don't really have any experience in doing anything. Because I tell every single person while I was at the university, do your experience the second you get to college. Get an unpaid internship while you can afford it. Get a job, an entry level job where they're going to pay you minimum wage and just learn how to do something. That's the only reason I have my current job. My college education is practically worthless. I went to school for so many years and I've never had a job that required a college degree ever. I just do the same thing every single day. You just work and you're miserable and you work and you're miserable. And then you get to come home to your shack at the end of the day and coming home to a place that looks like this after busting your hump all day. It's just so demoralizing. In fact, today we were having a meeting at work, and one of the other guys said, it's like, we're so demoralized in this department because nothing works. And I've been talking to him about this now for months. And I didn't know what to say. Like, other than, we keep coming back to work and everybody's unhappy. Everyone's unhappy with their pay. Everyone's unhappy with their work conditions. Everyone is just miserable. And it's not just Evil Corp, one Evil Corp. I can talk to Mello. I can talk to my other friend that works in sales, who I talk to all day. Oh my God, the stories she told me today. So we used to have a mutual friend that she's not friends with anymore. And I didn't understand why, but then I found out that this person was a really terrible person and did things to her that I just couldn't imagine another person doing this to you, especially someone that you would consider to be your best friend. And the more she told me about it today, I was just like mortified. And then at the end, she sent me a picture that said, "You're a bully, and I'm not going to let you bully me." And that's what she was talking about. This, what I thought, I had no idea the backstory of why they ended up not talking anymore. But there's so many things that are wrong with that other person, including being a diehard MAGA supporter. And I was just like, you know what? I had no idea like the craziness in her life, but I don't think I'll ever talk to that person ever again. And I guess sometimes you don't know these things because you don't know the person well enough. And the person that you know is that person isn't the person that they actually are, especially if you're going to treat your best friend as badly as she's treated her. I don't know where I'm going off on this tangent. It was the last thing that I said to the last thing she said to me before we stopped talking at the end of the workday. All right, so after 9 minutes, let's get into the opening monologue. If you're like me, fresh out of school and swimming in student loans, you're probably clicked on 100 job listings labeled entry level and felt a stab in your chest when they asked for 3 to 5 years of experience. Seriously, since when did entry level mean someone else already trained you? Today, I'm unpacking exactly why companies refuse to train new grads, leaving us stuck in a cycle where we can't get experience because no one wants to give it. Stick around because honestly, I'm about to spill some truth that companies don't want us to hear. So, this was me when I was a teenager. I started working in technology when I was 17 years old, and I wouldn't be able to afford a computer for many, many years after I got into computers. And you're wondering how I got into computer work. It's because I trained myself. No one that I knew at the time was going to take was I didn't even know how to type. So I had to train myself in the very basics of learning to type. It was spending all night as a freshman in college typing out my English papers because when I learned to type, I was one of those the hunt and peck letters. So for me to write entire college paper took me hours. And so that is where I started working in technology and that and figuring out because I didn't understand how printers worked. So I would just hit print and then I would listen in the middle of the night to where I could hear a printer rattling off my finished paper. And you guys wouldn't believe this how many papers I lost because the computer would restart for some reason and I hadn't saved it or it wouldn't let you save things on that computer. And I would have to start all over. That is tough training. All right, talking point number one. First, let's break down the infamous entry level job listing. Companies post these positions claiming they're perfect for new grads, but look closely and suddenly they want two internships, multiple professional resources, and at least 3 years in the field. Why? Because training costs money. Companies have gotten used to someone else footing the bill, molding fresh talent into productive employees. Training a new grad means patience, investment, and risk. Things they aren't interested in. It's cheaper, easier to poach someone else's investment than nurture their own. That's exactly what it is. The first job that a lot of college students, at least close to ASU, get is working for the insurance companies as an insurance adjuster or just processing claims. It's one of my neighbors that used to live close to me. She lived 2 doors down and 2 doors over from me. During the pandemic, that's what she did. She worked for State Farm Insurance from her house. And I thought that the guy that she was living with, which was a huge African American guy, and she was like not even 5 feet tall and super skinny. She was like teeny tiny. And for a long time, I thought that was her significant other. Well, it turns out that that was actually just her roommate. I couldn't imagine having a roommate inside of a studio apartment that was that big. Like at that point, are you just sharing a bed or renting your side of the bed with someone like that? And the last few weeks that she lived here before she moved in with her girlfriend was a eye opener because I had no idea. I didn't know that she was that way until I saw her. I was actually riding my bike past the dog park, and I walked past her, and her significant other actually lived in the apartment complex, right? And so they met. At the dog park because they both had dogs. So I imagine like if you go to the same place every day, you're gonna see the same people every day. In fact, I know I'm off on a tangent, but who cares? These Chat GPT scripts are kind of boring sometimes to read. So mainly the channel is like me just wanting to talk anyway. So so I was actually talking to one of the guys that works at the Kroger's, and he told me that he used to go to the same karaoke bar all the time, right? And because he went on the same nights and same days, you see the same people like in the gym. When you go to the gym at a different time, there's all different people. My favorite time to go to the gym is at 8 o'clock in the morning. That's my absolute favorite time. And that's the time where I met that girl that I occasionally talk to. We showed up at the same time at the same gym year after year after year, but I knew she was out of my league because she had a car. And so even though I'd seen her regularly for years at the gym at the same time, it wasn't until that I had my own car that I felt comfortable with talking to her. Because up until that point, she saw me day in and day out ride my bike. And after spending 20 years of riding my bike everywhere or taking the city bus. Now looking back at those 20 years, and you wonder, how could I possibly do it that long? Now I understand why ordinary people who drive cars hate the city bus, because it's always in the way. Always constantly in the way. And it's the most inefficient way to go anywhere in the city. It's slow, it breaks down, it sucks. But when you have the blinders on, like I did for 20 years, remember, for 20 years, I made the minimum wage. And I couldn't afford anything but rent and food. And rent for me, for all my life, has been an 80 to 90% deduction of my entire monthly pay. That's a lot of money. I remember when I was working at Insight and I'd come home after a long day of working in the call center of, being help desk, and I would get home and I'd just be like, I'd go into my tiny little room that I was renting from a slumlord, and I was so depressed that I had to work so hard to have nothing, because wages aren't fair, and they never will be unless you're a person that makes a good amount of money. Like I was watching The Sims, I was watching little Simsy play The Sims yesterday, and one of her Sims character, the oldest character in the household that she was working on, he made $500 an hour. And I thought to myself, anyone that's a kid who thinks that you're going to make $500 an hour has to have an incredible awakening. Like, you have to, like, at some point after you graduate and you think you're going to make all this money after going to college, and you played The Sims, right? And some of your characters make $85 an hour, but $500 an hour is truly a simulation. And so when these kids, especially out of more prestigious schools, they come out and they're making $15 an hour, and they wonder, well, what kind of life can I buy with $15 an hour? You're not buying any sort of life. What you're buying for the rest of your life is spending your entire adult life dependent 100% on your parents to help feed you. If you're like me and you've grown up your entire life, since I became an adult, I've been an orphan. When you don't have that safety net of your parents to help you, and you're an entry level or minimum wage worker, you're going to suffer your whole life. And believe me, it turns you into a very, very bitter person. When you're walking around and you see a 30-year-old man that has to work at McDonald's, you pass him, for some reason you want to poison yourself and put a big hole in your wallet, and you go to McDonald's. Please don't shop at McDonald's, people. Let it just go away like every other restaurant that's overpriced and disgusting. But when you see that man working there, and you look at his age and you look at the fact that he's working with high school kids, remember, that can easily be you. Opportunity in this world isn't what you think. The opportunity index in America has diminished vastly over the last 30 years. I should own a home. I should be thinking about retirement right now at my age. I shouldn't be getting my first car of my entire adult life in the last couple of years because I could never afford one, or to live by myself. For the last, how long have I lived by myself? 5 years is the first 5 years of my entire life I have sacrificed in order to be able to live by myself. So I didn't have to live with weird, crazy substance abuse. And it's everywhere when you rent a room. You think, oh, just had a bad batch of roommates. No. When you're broke, you don't have a good income, you don't have credit, you don't have anything. You are stuck living with those people who are also stuck living with you. And it's a terrible, terrible situation to be this old and not accomplish anything. And more of you out there that watch my videos on the daily, I know you understand this. You're depressed, you're sad, and you're afraid. And you should be very, very afraid because what is going on in our economy right now is devastating. You think things were bad 5 years ago or 10 years ago? It is going to get 100 times worse before it gets any better, before someone realizes, oh my God, what's happening? There are tens of thousands of college grads right now who can't find jobs and who think that they're better than the minimum wage. Well, I assure you, when you're 30 and you're getting that McPaycheck, put the fries in the bag, little bro. When someone's calling you little bro while you're putting fries in the bag, imagine what that does to that person. Nobody wants to work food past a certain age. And I would say the age is like 18 because when Mello was looking for work, I told her that In-N-Out Burger paid almost $20 an hour. She's like, no fast food. She's like, no, I will not work there. But there are a lot of people who can't make that choice. Mello has someone else to support her. When you're that 35-year-old divorced guy with 3 kids and you can't find a job like the one that you had before, and you have to work in a drive-through, it does things to you. It does things to your mind. It does things to your self-esteem. It does things to you that aren't good. It is the mental health crisis in America that no one wants to talk about, is being underemployed and being old. Walk into any retail place, restaurant in America, and they're all there. I spent my life there wearing a uniform that humiliated me every day. There was no dignity in work. It was just a place you had to go to if you wanted to continue to eat. And that's all jobs are in America anymore. You want to keep eating? You better keep working because Pound Town is waiting for you every single morning when you wake up. All right, so I'm running a little long. Let's go ahead and close out. I know I didn't touch on the topics that I wanted to, but these topics are just mindless and repetitive. If you're a new grad stuck in the impossible loop, remember, it's not your fault. The job market isn't broken by accident. Companies have chosen profit over people. But we can change that narrative by speaking up, demanding change, and refusing to accept unfair standards. We can pressure companies into investing back into new graduates because at the end of the day, every expert was once a beginner was once a beginner. I I don't know, ChatGPT sometimes doesn't understand the gravity of the situation because this is a dire situation for entire generations of people like myself. No home ownership, no marriage, no decent car, no decent wages. You just have to accept that life, at the end of your life, all that's going to happen is they're going to put you in the pine box and you will work till the last day that you're on planet Earth if you're like me. No, I have no savings account. I have no future retirement plans. At my age, that in itself is the marker of a person that will work on the slave planet till his very last breath.